Dear students, today we are going to discuss about semantics. It's our first lecture in which we will discuss about the introduction of the semantics. First, I'm going to talk about this course. This course introduces students to the basic concepts of semantics and pragmatics with the aim to help them conceptualize the relationship between words and their meanings and to understand the factors that govern choice of language in social interaction and the effects of these choices. Here are some objectives of this course. The objectives of the course are to enable students to differentiate between semantic and pragmatic meaning, introduce the theoretical concepts related to semantic and pragmatics, help students internalize sense relation and lexical relation along with the type of meaning, enable students to understand deixis, speech act theory, cooperative principle, and politeness. Semantics it is the study of the meaning in language. When we will talk about the explanation what is like meaning, then we can say that semantics studies the meaning of words and phrases and how these meanings are stored and represented both in brain and formally. This includes the study of the metaphors, categorization, time, and space, and much more. If we will talk about the semantics and the syntax, then we can say that semantics it is the study of the meaning, while the syntax is the study of the rules that govern sentence creation. Semantics it is the study of the meaning in language. It studies the meanings of words and the phrases and how these meanings are stored, represented both in brain and formally. While if we will talk about the syntax, it attempts to derive the rule by which phrases and the sentences are put together to form grammatical utterances in a given language. There are a large number of different syntactic frameworks that all have different underlying beliefs and origins, but they all share the same core idea. Human language is rule bound, and we can describe those rules. In semantics, actually, it deals with the meaning of the words that is called the lexical semantics. If we will talk about the what is mean by the lexical or the lexical item, lexicography it is like a lexical item that is a single word, a part of word, or a chain of words that forms the basic elements of the language lexicon that is related to the vocabulary. Like for example, there is a word, first there is a letter like A, B, C, D. These are the letters, and these letters when they will combine together, they will make words or the vocabulary words. Like for example, there would be a word car in which there are three letters, and the traffic light. These are the words. And how meaning of the sentences like the compositional semantics is derived from the words. In compositional, when those words they will combine together and they will make phrase or the sentence. Principle of the compositionality. The principle of the stating that the meaning of a sentence is determined by the meaning of its words and by the syntactic structure in which they are combined. Here I would like to explain the syntactic structure and what does it mean by the syntactic structure. I already explained about the syntax, that how words and the phrases they are put together, like the study of the rules that govern sentence creation. In syntactic structure, it is about the study of the rules whereby words or the other elements of the sentence structure are combined to form grammatical sentences. Lexical versus compositional semantics. Actually, there is a difference between the lexical and the compositional semantics. I like to explain the definition of these two types, lexical and the compositional semantics. Lexical semantics, it is also known as the lexicosemantics, and it is the subfield of the linguistic semantics. And it is the unit of analysis in the lexical semantics are lexical units which include not only words but also the subwords or the subunits, like such as affixes. Here I will explain affixes. Affixes are the group of letters attached before and after the root word. For example, you are already aware about the prefix and the suffix and the words. For example, there is a word unacceptable. Un is prefix, a group letters placed before the root word. Pre mean before, and the suffix able is suffix, the group of letters placed after the root word, and accept is the root word. Unacceptable, unaccept, and the able, unacceptable. In lexical semantics, when we will explain about the lexical semantics more, we can say that the study of the lexical semantics looks at the classification and the decomposition of the lexical items, the differences and the similarities in lexical semantic structure cross linguistically, and the relationship of the lexical meaning to the syntax meaning and the syntax. And the next, I am going to explain about the compositional semantics. Compositional semantics is the building of the phrasal or sentence meaning from the meaning of the smaller units by means of semantic rules. Here are some examples of the compositional semantics and the lexical semantics. In lexical semantics, there will be different words. As I have already explained, in lexical semantics, there would be the words or the vocabulary words or the dictionary words like a man or dog, and these are the lexical semantics words. A man, for example, a two-legged mammal, relatively hairless, male sex. And in compositional semantics, there would be phrases or the sentences. For example, there is a sentence, dog bites man. Now we are going to talk about an language, a multifaceted phenomenon. Language meaning communicates information about the world around us. Language as a system of the symbols. Actually, symbols are the things that stand for or refer to the other things. Language with information content. When we will talk about the symbol and when they are conveying different meanings, or the words when they convey different meanings, every time they are conveying a literal meaning, or you can say that a contextual meaning. Literal meaning is that is denotation, and the contextual meaning that is related to the belong to connotation, and I will explain these two terms in the next two slides. Meaning is processed in the mind of the speaker or the hearer, that is cognitive or the psychological. Cognitive means that is related to the mind, which is related in your in the mind of the speaker or in the mind of the hearer, and that is related to the cognitive and the psychological. And meaning is a social phenomenon that is related to context, and in which context is important. Context means that in background, whenever you are uttering some type of sentence and whenever you will utter a word, every time you will observe your social, cultural, and historical context or the background. Meaning of word or the sentences have various relationships among themselves, for example antonyms, synonyms, etc., and that can be studied independently. Now I'm going to talk about denotation and the connotation. Denotation means that is related to the dictionary meaning, and the connotation that is known as the contextual meaning. Denotation is the literal meaning or the dictionary definition of a word, and denotation is defined in contrast to connotation, which is the array of emotion and the ideas suggested by a word in addition to its dictionary definition. Here are some examples of the denotation meaning. For example, there are the two words house and home. For example, have the same denotation of building where people live, but the word home has a connotation of the warmth and the family, while the word house doesn't. A word's denotation doesn't include any of the subjective or emotional association that are the part of the word's connotation. I would like to share another example. For example, there is a word white. The dictionary meaning of white is color. White is a color. But for example, if you will use the white color during the war, or you can say that at international level, you may say that white, the connotation of the white color during the war is, or during the battle is, it is conveying a message, or it has a connotation that it will use for peace. Now I'm going to talk about the connotation. I have already explained the different examples. Still, I will explain the definition of the connotation as well. Connotation is the array of the emotions and the ideas suggested by a word in addition to its dictionary definition. Most words carries meanings, impressions or associations apart from or beyond their literal meaning. Previously, in the previous slides, I have already explained about the home and the house. And the literal meaning or the denotative meaning of home and house is same, that it is the place where people they live, but the connotation is different. Home is not for the family. Connotation of home is connotation of the home is for family, and while the connotation of house is not for the family. And for example, the words child and the kid mean the same thing, but to call someone a kid has a slightly informal and therefore disrespectful connotation. And the nature of the connotation is that they are not explicitly defined, so they can be used in both purposeful and accidental ways to convey subtle meaning, or you can say that complete meaning or the subtext. And you might call someone a kid on a purpose to imply there are when you are implicitly and the explicitly you are saying directly, and the imply or the implicitly means when you are saying indirectly some disrespect, or you may do with so without realizing the connotation of your words. Now we are done with the introductory lecture of the connotation and the denotation, and we have discussed about the semantics. The next points I will discuss in the next lecture.